Hello guys and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Jewel Onuk and welcome to Spooky Wednesday. So guys, today is a very sneaky one. But before I go, let me just digress a little bit. So the weather is gloomy and it's gloomy and it's literally not serving me right now. I'm already missing the summer. I'm not a fan of fall or winter because I always say I just need Nigerian weather in the UK. I just need Nigerian weather in the UK, honestly speaking, and I'll be good. So I'm just full of high spirits today, and I just did a little saging ritual, and I'm burning incense right now, and it's literally lifted my spirit and lifted my joy up. I'm literally so excited this morning, and yeah. And that being said, hi guys, welcome to Spooky Wednesday. So, in case it's your first time, hi, my name is Joel Onu, and every Wednesday I post true crime stories like this. And if true crime story is what you like, kindly subscribe, like this video if you care. Actually, like this video whether you care or not. I'm just joking. Like this video, comment, and yeah, let's just get right into it. Today we're actually going to talk about Mary Bell. Mary Bell is officially Britain's youngest killer. I've known this case, but this is my first time researching this case, and I was like, there's no way this girl was 10. There is no way this girl was 10, except maybe they're fabricating some things online, but there's no way this girl was 10. So grab a popcorn, your wine, anything, just sit down and let's unwind this case together. And while you're watching, can you please like this video and subscribe? Thank you. Mary Bell was born on May 26, 1957 in Northumberland. She was the second child to her mother, Betty McCricket, who was a 17-year-old sex worker. It was reported that when she gave birth to Mary Flora Bell, she told the doctors, "Take that thing away from me," when once she had seen her daughter. Mary Bell was born into an unstable household. Her mom was a sex worker and she was away from the home a lot because she was always traveling to Glasgow to work. No information is actually known about her dad because he was not active in Mary Bell's life. But some research actually said that her dad was a local criminal and his name was Billy Bell. That is why people just put two and two together. It was also reported that he was actually arrested and imprisoned for theft and armed robbery when Mary was a baby. Again, he was not involved in his daughter's life. If Mary was his daughter, he was not involved in her life. So when Mary was a baby, it was reported that she had so many injuries and so many cuts in her body, on her body. Is it in her body, on her body, on her body? Whenever she was left in the care of her mom. As a baby, toddler, and a young child, Mary Bell had different injuries in household activities whenever she was left in the care of her mom. So just led her family members to just think that Betty was just neglecting her deliberately and actually intended to kill Mary or to injure Mary because they did not understand how you would be with your child and your child has all these cuts and all these wounds. So they just thought that Betty was doing it on purpose. There was even a time when Betty was 3 years in October 1960. Her mom dropped her from the first window. After that, she gave her sleeping pills, not just one. Reports said that she actually piled up sleeping pills and gave her daughter. So there was also a report that Betty, Mary's mom, had actually sold Mary to a mentally unstable woman who was not able to have children of her own. And when her family got hold of this made Betty's elder sister Catherine to travel all the way to Newcastle and to the woman's house to actually get Mary back and return Mary to her mother in White Horse Road. I don't understand why they did not involve CPS. Maybe because they didn't want the mother to go to jail, but they did not involve CPS, they did not involve police, they did not involve child social services, nothing. They just did things the family way. But I just wish they had gone towards that extent. Again, I don't even know if they did, because obviously it was not reported, but like I'm just assuming they did not, because it would have been reported. And then again, I actually think that the fact that Mary's mom, Betty, threw Mary from the first window down to the floor, I actually think that kind of affected the way she reasoned. When I go down this case, you're going to see, you guys know what I'm talking about, like true crime fanatics, you guys know that sometimes when things like this happen, it affects the reasoning of a child, especially when it comes to the frontal lobe. So like obviously if she threw Mary down, there's a way I think it would have kind of affected her way of reasoning, or maybe she had a brain injury. Again, her family, Betty's family, had actually offered to like take custody of Mary, but Betty refused. And I'm like, why are you refusing when you know like you can't even take care of your child, you neglect your child, you literally like you actually do hate your child, because I don't believe that if you love your child you would treat your child like this. So I'm like, okay, you are actually neglecting your child, leaving your child alone, traveling to Glasgow for work. Cool, that's on you. But like, why is it that when you found help, like your family is literally offering to take care of your child, and you're like, no? Like she literally refused the help, and she didn't want her family to take care of Mary. And it was reported that Betty had actually encouraged her client to sexually abuse Mary. Growing up, Mary was known to be temperamental. She got angry easily, both home and in school. She displayed signs of being disturbed and also having an unpredictable behavior. And this also included the fact that she had mood swings and she was a chronic bedwetter. I have actually seen in true crime cases where when they are like listing the characteristics of like maybe the criminal or a serial killer, they're like they were chronic bedwetters. And I'm like, there are people that actually do bedwets, like they actually bedwetted and they're still fine. I personally, I've not been a bedwetter. I think I was very good in my continence. Is it continent or consistent? I don't know. Like going to the toilet, like as a child, like my dad told me, I was not a problematic child at all. But like I know, like people, like even when I was in secondary school, there were people that were still bedwetting. Like they had to use Macintosh on their bed, and they've not turned out. I thought it was on silent, and they've not turned out to be serial killers. So I am confused. Like sometimes I know sometimes that's what they always say, like when it comes to like when they're listing the characteristics of a criminal or a serial killer. I've seen in some cases that they're like, oh, they were a chronic bedwetter. I don't always like really put that into perspective, because I've come across people who actually do bedwet and they're still fine in the head. But like, yeah, reports said that like she had like mood swings and she really used to bedwet a lot, and her behaviors, like nobody knew what she would do next. And again, like I feel like if you're her friend, you would literally be walking on eggshells. And I have been in that situation before, like walking on eggshells around somebody. Like it's literally not it. Like guys, your anxiety is just going to be on peak. So like both at home and in school, nobody knew when they were stepping on the toes of Mary and what she might do after. It was known that frequently that Mary actually did fight with other children. I'm like, guys, let's not forget, like at this case, like when all this happened, she was like 10. So like this was pre 10 years old, like pre 10, like this was before she was 10, and she just displayed this disturbing behaviors. I feel like when I was reading this case, I had to keep on reminding myself that yes, this girl is actually 10 years old. She's actually 10. Also, it was reported that she had actually attempted to strangle several of her classmates on several occasions. So like, I don't know, she had a fascination with strangling people, and I'm going to tell you why. There was even a time that she actually attempted to block the trachea of a young girl with sand. How would somebody even think of that? Like, how would a child think of blocking the trachea of somebody with sand? Being like, okay, if I put sand here, I know that, yeah, is going to lead to something problematic. So thank God she was caught in the act, and I don't know, nobody said what happened after. Was she reprimanded? Was she given mental health counseling? Was she looked into? Nobody, no report actually said that. And also, as usual, because of her attitude, because of her character, children were very reluctant to actually play with Mary, because they said that Mary was this problematic child, this problematic person. So they're like, if we play with somebody like this, it's going to cost us our life. I'm just speculating. So children were very reluctant to play with Mary because nobody knew when she was going to switch at any time. And the only person that Mary had as a friend was Norma Joyce Bell. I know, right? The two of them had the surname Bell, but they were not related in any way. In fact, Norma and Mary were actually neighbors. She lived next door. Norma was 13 years old, while Mary was 10 years old. The only relation they had together was the fact that they lived next door, which is so coincidental. Weeks before her first murder, it was actually reported that Mary Bell had been acting strangely. So on May 11th, 1968, Mary had been playing with a 3-year-old boy. It was found out that this boy was badly injured. He actually was in a fall from the top of an air raid shelter, and his parents actually thought that it was an accident. But when they had questioned him, when they asked him what happened, he actually said that Mary had pushed him 7 feet from this air raid shelter to the ground, and this actually inflicted lacerations to his head. The following day, 3 mothers, they actually went to the police to report Mary Bell to the police, and they said that Mary had actually attempted to choke their young daughters. And again, police, they asked Mary what had happened, but then they had filed no charges. Like literally in the space of 24 hours, this girl had been a nuisance to like 4 children, and the police were informed and they literally did nothing. I understand that she was still like very young, and maybe they'll be like, yeah, it's just what young people do. But at the end of the day, like, it's something they should have at least reported, or like offered counseling or mental health. If police had done things like right on time, we will not even be here, honestly speaking. Like, if they had intervened or intervented or intervened, I don't know, if they had intervened, we will not be here. Like, if they had given her counseling, giving her like one-on-one like psychological counseling, therapy or something, I feel like that, because she was still young, I feel like it would have done something. At least we know that, okay, somebody tried. I don't know, that's just what I think. On May 25th, 1968, just a day before Mary actually turned 11 years old, she strangled a 4-year-old boy named Martin Brown in an upstairs room of a derelict house. It was also reported that she had actually committed this crime alone. So when she committed this crime, she left, and the body of Martin Brown was discovered by other children. So it was showed that he was laying on his back and his arms were stretched above his head, and he had like blood coming out from his mouth and foam around his mouth, but there was no signs of violence on his body. People had actually tried everything possible to see if they could bring this bug back to life, but nothing happened. They even performed CPR on him, but obviously it actually did not work because obviously he was dead by this time. At the time that the CPR was being performed, Norma and Mary, they had actually come into the bedroom where Martin was, and they were quickly sent away. So when they went, they didn't go home straight. They went to the door of Martin's aunt. Her name was Rita Finlay, and they said, one of your sister's bairns has just had an accident. We think it's Martin, but we can't tell because there's blood all over him. An autopsy was performed on Martin, but the result came out as inconclusive. They could not find any violence or any sign of violence on his body. So this actually kind of made it hard for them to determine the cause of his death. And let's not forget, this was like in 1968. And it's quite impressive that when you listen to true crime cases, like in the olden times, like there was something like a coroner, like an autopsy report, like there was something like that. It's quite impressive. But anyways, they were not able to come out with the cause of his death at that time. The examiner actually came out to say that Martin did not die of food poisoning, because that's what people thought, because like just beside his body they had actually seen like tablets, so they actually thought that maybe he overdosed on the pills. But the examiner came out and was like, nah, he actually did not die of food poisoning as people had actually thought. They at this time did not know the cause of his death. So the next day, when Mary was 11 years old, her and Norma, they actually went to Woodland Crescent Nursery, and they actually broke and vandalized everywhere. Like, they turned the chairs around, they removed the slate from the roof, they smeared ink everywhere. Like, they had destroyed everything, like, upside down. And I think that's making me think, you guys can literally see how neglected she was by her mom. The fact that she went out on her birthday and she was not, like, questioned. Like, normally, like, on your birthday, I feel like that's when your family gets more involved. But, like, she literally went out on her birthday, and the fact that she could go out on her birthday and do all these things, and she was never looked for. Like, it was never reported that, oh, they were like, oh, hi, is Mary, at least today she's turning 11 years. Nothing. And her mom has no time for her. So then again, this is what I'm actually saying. Like, she literally was neglected by her mom. And another part of me thinks that she's doing this for, like, attention, because we see, like, people who are neglected by their parents, they tend to destroy things, they tend to become a nuisance to the society and to people around them because they crave for attention. So I feel like, apart from the fact that maybe she has brain injury, I feel like another reason, sorry, I'm playing devil's advocate here, because let's not forget she's a child. I feel like the environment she grew up in, being neglected, being overlooked, just caused her to, like, do all these things to create attention. People, when they commit crimes, they actually do not want to be known. She went to Martin's aunt's house to say, oh, I think one of your sisters, Bynes, but I don't really know how to pronounce it, Birns, saying that, oh, she thinks, like, he's dead. Do you understand? Like, people want to be under the radar, they don't want to associate herself with things like that. But, like, kind of, she was still feeling drawing attention to herself. So the next day was a Monday, and because when she did this was on a Sunday, so the next day was a Monday, and everybody at the nursery, when they had come and that seen, like, how the nursery was vandalized and how everything was turned upside down, they actually notified the police for the police to come. And when the police came, they actually saw 4 different notes, and this note actually claimed responsibilities for the murder of Martin Brown. Guys, I'm just going to read to you what the 4 notes actually did say. So one of the notes said, I murder so that I may come back. And another said, we did not murder Martin Brown. Fuck off, you bastard. A third note said, fudge of we murder. Watch out, Fanny and faggot. The final note was the most complex, which read, you are mice. Why? Because we murdered Martin Go Brown. You better look out, there are murders about by Fanny and old faggot, you screws. Guys, I really like that because obviously it was not written well in English, and obviously I think you guys have seen it on the screen how it was written. That's why I really like that. Police saw this and they just took it as a childish prank, which if they had actually really did look into this, like maybe question everybody in the village, ask people, oh, where were you at this time, where were you at that time, I feel like we will not even be in the second part of this case. So 2 days later, on the 29th of May, shortly before the funeral of Martin Brown, the both girls actually went to Martin's mom and they actually asked to see Martin, and she was like that, oh, it's impossible for you to see Martin because Martin is dead. And Mary replied, Mary was like, oh yeah, I know he's dead, I just want to see him in his coffin. Guys, full body chills. They're like, yeah, I know he's dead, I just want to see him in his coffin. Imagine someone told you that. I'm like, are you okay? On 31st July 1968, there was a 3-year-old boy named Brian Hoey, and he was seen by his parents in the street outside playing with his siblings, his family dog Norma, and Mary Bell. So that afternoon, when he didn't return, there was a search party that was organized to look for him, and they did not find him. So this search party actually stretched along like towards nighttime, and around 11 p.m. they had actually found him laying down, and he was covered between 2 large concrete blocks. So the first policeman that actually came to the scene, he had actually said that he noticed that it was a deliberate but feeble attempt to conceal Brian's body, and the police actually found out that he was actually covered in clumps of grass and weed. They had also found out that the child's lips had actually turned purple, and he had several bruises and scratches on his body. especially on his neck, and then there was a broken scissors that was actually laid close to his feet. An autopsy was done, and the cause of his death was strangulation. And the autopsy, the coroner, they actually speculated, they actually said that he had actually died around 7.5 hours before his body was found. The coroner said that whoever had killed Brian had actually closed his nostrils with one hand and gripped his throat with the other. And the coroner also said that there were numerous puncture wounds on his legs before his death. His hair were cut from his neck, his genitals were partially mutilated, and they had attempted to carve an M on his stomach. So I actually read on one article that first of all, like, there was an N that was actually carved out on his stomach. Then there was a different handwriting that actually completed it to be an M. So guys, you guys can actually guess. So an N was carved out first, which I would assume is normal, and then a different handwriting came and carved it out to an M. So that is what I read on one article. Another article says that the M was carved out by one person, which signifies Mary. And I'm not gonna lie, I think I'll go with that one, because like Mary was like the ringleader, and I feel like maybe should have wanted to go first than Norma. That's just what I feel. Or maybe should have commanded Norma to do an end first. But when we go down this line, you would see why I actually think that Mary was the one who just did the M on Brian's body. Just drop your comments, like, what do you actually think actually did happen, and let me know. The coroner actually noticed that it was a little amount of force that was actually used to murder the child. So because of this, the coroner was like, the person that actually did this, the person that murdered Brian, was a child. They didn't think an adult would be that feeble in murdering somebody, so they actually thought that, okay, yeah, it was a child. When I was researching this case, it was so hard for me to like look past the fact that she was just 10 at this time, or maybe 11 now, but like even if like literally her birthday was like a few months ago, like it was so hard for me to like look past this part, because she literally knows that you have to like hold the nostrils and strangle the person just to obstruct the breath from the person. But then there was an article that I read that actually said that when she was sexually assaulted by like her mom's people, because let's not forget, it was alleged that her mom made people sleep with her when she was younger. I actually read on some articles that that's what her mom's customers, her mom's clients used to do to her. Like they literally used to strangle her in bed, and she would fall unconscious during that process, and she will come back to life. That is what I actually read in some articles, allegedly anyways. The investigation that actually happened in this case was very much more prominent than what happened in Martin Brown's case. I feel like this was more like a wake-up call, because like in the space of a year, like 2 little boys died. Literally so many police were actually assigned to the case of Brian Howie. More than 1,200 children were actually questioned in relation to the death of Brian Howie. Again, when I was researching this case, it was more like it was a village. That's what was in my head, because it felt like everybody knew everybody. So I've never been to Newcastle. So like obviously I've seen like pictures. Newcastle is a very beautiful place, blah blah blah. But this was like in 1968, and it felt like, when I was reading, it felt like, I don't know, it felt like it was a village. So when I read that, oh, they interviewed like 1,200 children, I was like, oh my god, that's like a lot of children. So yeah, but like over 1,200 children were actually questioned in relation to Brian Howie and where they were around the time that Brian died. 2 of these children that were actually questioned were obviously Mary and Norma Bell, and they asked them like where were they around like 1st and 2nd of August. And when the police had actually interviewed them, like was questioning them, I think they were together, and Norma, she seemed so excited to like be answering questions from the police. Like she was excited. Like let's not forget, like Norma was like, she was actually later diagnosed of being someone who was submissive and very slow to her surroundings and things like that. But then again, like, she seemed excited. But when it came to Mary, the police observed that Mary was a little bit quiet and very observant. Like, this girl is 11 years. I think we are forgetting the fact that this girl just 11 years. She was very calculative. Like, for an I'm going to give her props though. Like, I know, like, she didn't use it for good things, but I feel like if the way she was thinking, if she had used it for like good things, I feel like she would have come out to be like someone very successful, because like she was very smart at a very young age. I don't know why an IQ test was not performed on her, because I could bet you that she had a very, very high IQ. When they questioned her, she was much more observant, very quiet, and compared to Norma, who was like very excited and like just like, you understand, like bust things out. But like obviously at this time they had not like said the truth. It was reported that they were very evasive and contradictory in their initial statements. But one thing is that they actually did not deny the fact that they were actually playing with Brian on the day that Brian was murdered. They had said that yeah, they were playing with him and they had seen him after lunchtime, but like in other things they were just contradicting each other. So Mary stated that she had seen an 8-year-old local boy playing with Brian, and she said that she had seen this 8-year-old boy hitting Brian's head, and she said that the boy was covered in grass and weed as if he was rolling on the grass. That's how she was. And she also said that she saw this boy holding a pair of scissors. She said, I saw him trying to cut a cat's tails off with the scissors, but there was something wrong with them. One leg was broken or bent. So because she said this was so self-incriminating, because the police had not told anybody that there was a scissors in the crime scene. So the only person that knew that there was scissors in the crime scene would have been either the criminal or the police. So obviously when she had given this testimony and she had brought about the scissors, the police were like, okay, I think we're getting closer to the case, because there's no other person. The public, they don't know that obviously that there was a scissors in this case or in the crime scene, because obviously let's not forget Brian's cause of death was strangulation. So having a scissors there will literally be the last thing on the public's mind, because obviously he died by strangulation. So when Mary had given this testimony, police was like, wait, there's no way you know about the scissors, because we had never said anything about the scissors. This just quickly made the police to just point Mary to be their primary suspect. This did not stop the police from going to interview the local boy, and the police went to interview the local boy. They questioned him and they discovered that he, around the time of Brian's murder, he was actually at Newcastle International Airport that afternoon on 31st July. So there's no way in hell he would have been able to kill Brian at the same time be in the international police. And also, they did not just take his word, they actually questioned people. They questioned his parents, questioned his neighbors, and they were like, yeah, that around that time this 8-year-old boy was not there. I feel like at this time, like, they just let them just roam about the street, maybe because of the way I grew up. Like when I was 8 years, I was still like in my dad's house. Like I didn't go out, I was not allowed to go out, I was just like at home. So like when I'm like, oh, 8-year-old boy in international, yeah, again, this was in the olden days. Like I don't know, man, I don't know, I just didn't grow up like that. Like, so it's kind of strange that he's in an airport and like his parents can corroborate. I don't know, his neighbors can corroborate. Did he go alone? Like, I don't know. I just think like, yeah, this was a different era. Like now the world is getting worse and worse. On 4th of August, Norma Bell's parents had contacted the police, and they told the police that Norma had a confession to make in regard to the death of Brian Howie. So police came in and then they took Norma in for questioning, and Norma said that Mary had taken her to a spot, and this spot is called Spot Tin Lizzo, and this is where she had shown Norma Brian's body. So Norma said that Mary had shown her how she actually strangled Brian, and she said that Mary had told her that she actually did enjoy strangling Brian, and that she had actually carved, she was actually the one that carved an M on Brian's body. So initially, Mary told Norma that she used a razor to carve the end, but like obviously the razor was like kind of misbehaving, and then she had to finish it off with a scissors. So this is why I said that I believe the fact that an article said that they believe that it's one person that wrote the M, because she started to use a razor, and when she found out that the razor did not do her justice as she wanted it to, she used the scissors to finish it off, not two people doing it at the same time. This is why I follow the second theory, because of Norma's confession. Norma took the police to where the scene was, and she actually showed the police the razor blade that Mary had used to carve out the belly of Brian. After Norma had given this confession and had taken them to the spot where the razor was, the police just came to the conclusion that they were going to call Mary in for more questioning. So the next day, they went to Mary's house and they went to question Mary. And when they went, Mary was very defensive and she said, "You're trying to brainwash me," in quote. "You're trying to brainwash me. I will get a solicitor to get me out of this." She was just 11 years. This is what I'm saying. Like, there's no way in hell her IQ was not high. She knew what she was doing and she was so smart. Later that same evening, Norma was questioned again and she gave a full statement. And in her statement, she admitted to being present when Mary had actually strangled Brian. Is actually getting okay. This part actually kind of got me confused. So according to Norma, she was like, when the three of them had reached the spot, that spot in Lizzo, when the three of them had reached the spot, that Mary, Norma, this is what Norma said. Norma said that Mary seemed to go all funny, and then she pushed Brian to the ground and she started to strangle Brian. And then she looked at Norma and she told Norma, she was like, "Take over, my hands are getting all thick." And then she left Norma and ran out of the scene and left Norma with Brian, which kind of does not make sense, because I am like, why would she leave the two of them and go? To me, I feel like Norma was like the soft-hearted person. So I'm thinking that Norma was kind of scared of Mary and she had to like take some part of the blame. That's just what I think, because obviously, let's not forget, like, even though she was older than Mary, she was very submissive to Mary and she was like, Mary was like in charge of her. So I feel like when they gave full statement, she kind of backtracked a little bit and was like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to take like little responsibility for the crime," if that makes sense. So there was a forensic examination of clothing that was conducted on the clothes that the girls had worn on the day of Brian's murder. So they discovered that the grey fibers discovered on Brian's body were a precise match to a woolen dress owned by Mary, and the maroon fibers on the child's shoes were a precise match to a skirt owned by Norma. And also, guys, let me tell you guys something. The grey fibers had also been found upon the body of Martin Brown. So them finding these grey fibers just led them back to the body of Martin Brown. Brian Howie was buried in a local cemetery on the 7th of August 1968, and it was reported that over 200 people were present for his burial. Also, it was reported that when Brian's coffin was brought forward, that Mary just stood there and she was laughing and she was rubbing her hands, which is so weird. But anyways, later that evening, two girls were actually arrested, formally charged for the death of Brian Howie. And as you guessed it, it was Mary and Norma Bell. And let's not forget, these people are not siblings. They are like next door neighbor with the same name and same eerie character. When the girls were actually brought into questioning, Mary was like, "Yeah, that's all right by me," but Norma, she burst into tears. So in the presence of an independent witness that was not formally stated, Mary actually prepared a handwritten note, and she said that yeah, she was present in the murdering when Brian was being murdered, but she actually was not the one that did it. She put all the blame on Norma, and she said that Norma was the one who murdered Brian. And she also said that Norma was the one who went to Woodland Crescent Nursery School and vandalized the whole building after the death of Martin Brown, because Norma was the one that killed Martin Brown. And she said that yeah, the two of them were the one who wrote the notes, but she had nothing to do with the death of Brian or the death of Martin. That all of that was Norma, which you guys know is not true, because like Norma was this timid and shy and slow person, and Mary was like this "don't try me" person, because if you try me, I'm going to come for you. So like obviously I'm not using that to judge, but like from this case, You guys can see Mary and Norma, they were evaluated by psychologists and professionals and spectators and clinical whoever, and it was concluded that Mary was a bright yet cunning character who was prone to sudden mood swings, while Norma was intellectually delayed and had a submissive character who easily displayed emotion. For psychiatrists, they actually examined Mary and they reported that although Mary had no mental disorder, she suffered from psychopathic personality disorder. There was a Dr. David Westbury, who also concluded that Mary's social techniques are primitive and they take the form of automatic denial, ingratiation, manipulation, complaining, bullying, fight, or violence. So the girls both pleaded not guilty. Also, the right to anonymity was waived away. So like basically like when it comes to like juvenile cases, when children are being tried, so most times they actually don't show their face or reveal their identity because obviously they're still children, and especially if they're going to come out later into the society, so their identity is not released to the public, so they're eitherly known as eitherly sorry guys, so they are either known as person A or person B or Jane Doe or John Doe. No, Jane Doe or John Doe is if they are the victim, so like either person A or person B, so that's how they're actually known. So I think the defendants actually wanted their identity to be hidden, but the judge waved it off, and the judge were like, the media can actually take your face and your name. So literally the media, they were allowed to take their face and their name because the judge or the jury just believed that the person who did this or the people who did this should be known to the public, so that the public would be wary of them and know that yeah, these people are very, very dangerous. So obviously their right to anonymity was waived away and the media could actually photograph their face. Norma actually denied murdering any of the children, but she said that she knew about Mary's penchants to violence and her history of attacking children, and the two of them had actually discussed attacking and killing other children. So like I said, Mary's violence to other children was not a hidden thing. Like in 24 hours she attempted to kill 4 children, and it was not anything that was actually hidden. And also I forgot to mention, like Norma's parents, I don't know if it was true, but like Norma's mom and dad, they said that they had actually caught Mary strangling Norma's younger sister, and it took Norma's dad to push Mary away for Mary to stop that. But I'm like, you saw this and you still allowed your child to hang out with the person, hang out with that. Like, if you see someone trying to kill your child, why would you the next day just keep quiet and watch your child hang out with such a person? Like, so Mary, she had actually testified after Norma, and her testimony actually lasted for 4 hours. So she denied everything that Norma had said. She said that she didn't do anything, she didn't murder anybody, that she had actually observed the body of Martin Brown that was on St. Margaret's Road, but she was not the one who actually murdered Martin. She said that herself, she had never harmed a child, and that Norma was actually the one who went to go and ask Martin's mother to view the body. And she said that they did this because the two of them, they were daring each other, and one of them did not want to be a chicken. Which is like so funny because obviously it was Mary that went to go and ask, but you guys saw the way she just spun everything around and just blamed Norma for like literally every single thing. So Mary said that Norma was the only one who strangled Brian, and that herself, like, she could not move. She was so perplexed, she could not move. She said it was as if some glue was pulling us down. So she said that Norma had encouraged Brian to lay down for some sweets, and she said that Norma said, "You've got to lie down for the lady to come with the sweets," before proceeding to strangle Brian. Mary also said that she could determine the level of force that Norma had actually used to strangle Brian. She said that she could determine this because her fingertips, that's Norma's fingertips, and her nails were actually going white. I feel like Mary was just narrating her own experience, but she was putting Norma's name in the middle. Mary also said that why she didn't tell the authorities was because she was loyal to Norma. let's not forget, like, Mary is like the authoritative one, and she was like the leader. So she was like that she was scared of Norma, and that she had this misguided sense of loyalty to Norma, which you guys know that that's just a whole lie. So the trial lasted for 9 days, and the jury just used 3 hours 25 minutes to come to their deliberation. So Mary Bell was cleared of murder, and she was convicted of manslaughter of both boys on grounds of diminished responsibilities, which I actually don't know why, because she actually did murder those boys. Anyways, Norma was acquitted of all charges, and when once Norma heard of the jury's verdict, she clapped her hands in excitement while Mary burst into tears. Guys, this is the first time Mary cried. When she heard of her conviction, she actually cried, and this is the first time Norma, okay, apart from the first time where they interviewed her and she was all excited, but when she saw that the case was serious, this was the first time she actually did clap her hands, and it was the first time Mary actually cried or showed any form of emotions. So the judge described Mary Bell as a dangerous individual, and actually said that she was a grave risk to other children, and she must be taken to be protected from the public. Was also given an indefinite sentence of imprisonment. So guys, where is Mary Bell now? So Mary Bell, she was released in May 1980. You see why I said this case has so many May months. She was released in May 1980, and she was just 23 years. She had actually served almost 11 and a half years of her custody, and she was granted anonymity. Even she was also given a new name. This allowed her to like start a new life. She also gave birth to a girl. Nobody knows about the father of the child, so her mom filed for another anonymity, and this anonymity would also cover her daughter. So the court made the anonymity to cover her daughter till her daughter was 18 years, but Mary filed for another one to make it a lifetime. She actually left Sussex, and some reports said that she went back to Newcastle, but obviously it's not been confirmed. Thank you guys so much for stopping by. I really do appreciate you guys, and in case you're not subscribed, please subscribe to my channel, like this video if you care, and I'm going to see you guys next week with another video. If you're not subscribed, kindly subscribe, share this video if you care. And I've said that like in a loop. Share this video if you care, and till next week, bye. Please don't forget to tell me what you guys think of this video, and I'm going to see you in another video. Till next week, bye.